Yeah. So Sue lives here in Brighton. Mary Lou lives here in Brighton. And Kim, you live up like in the Fenton area, right?
Yes, I do.
All right. So these ladies have helped me put this class on, and they're awesome. So hope you get to know them. But Janet, yeah, share with us about the blessings of having a grateful heart and how that can affect us.
All right, I'd like to focus on Colossians, 2nd chapter, verse 7. It says, "Keep your roots deep in him and have your lives built on him. Be strong in your faith, just as you were taught, and always, always be thankful." Scientific studies have proven that a grateful heart and eating a well-balanced plant-based diet can help and have a dramatic effect on our physical and mental health. I know during these crazy and stressful year, I have been more tempted to be focused on fear and confusion, and also craving unhealthy comfort food. However, this is the time when we need to look and focus and to draw near to the Lord for strength and be grateful for all that we have been given. And by eating a healthy plant-based diet, we will be strengthening our immune system to help fight off diseases such as diabetes, high cholesterol, lowering inflammation in the body, heart disease, lowering blood pressure, and cancer. So let's eat the best so you and I can live longer and stronger and more abundantly.
Amen.
And I have a prayer here. It was in your packet, and I'd just like to have everyone bow their heads and listen. Dear God, thank you for your amazing power and work in my life. Thank you for your goodness and for your blessings over me. Thank you that you are able to bring hope through even the toughest of times, strengthening me for your purposes. Thank you for your great love and care. Thank you for your mercy and grace. Thank you that you are always with me and will never leave me. Thank you for your incredible sacrifice so that I might have freedom and life. Forgive me for when I don't thank you enough for who you are, for all that you do, and for all that you've given. Help me to set my eyes and my heart on you afresh. Renew my spirit. Fill me with your peace and joy. I love you and I need you this day and every day. I give you praise and thanks, for you alone are worthy. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Janet. And we included in your email a little devotional that had some of those health facts about gratitude, and the little prayer that Janet prayed there you can find. So hope that just puts you in a positive frame of mind tonight as we begin, and that we won't just be thankful at Thanksgiving time, but all throughout the year. So as we transition now to our cooking, I just want to give a couple little tips here about how we can use Zoom. As we go along, you might have a question. Now, as you can see, we have everyone muted right now. That's only because once we start using blenders and food processors and all that stuff, it could get pretty noisy. So that's going to help to minimize some of the background noise. But we don't want you to feel like you can't participate. So if you got a question or a comment, or you want to ask something, you can do it a couple ways. If you're on a laptop, you can press the space bar and hold the space bar down, and that will unmute you, and you can say whatever you want to say, and when you release the space bar, you're muted again. Or you can just click on the unmute button down on the bottom, or you can type it into the chat box. And my friend Sue here, part of my team, is going to be monitoring all those chat questions so that if I don't see it, she can let me know. And I see someone just put a little something in there about the chat, about the, someone was wanting that handout about that Janet shared. So Kim is going to post here some files in our chat. She'll post that devotional and the recipes in there as we go along. And she'll also, I think, post the flyer for the next event in there too. So you can download from there if you didn't already get them in your email. All right, any questions before we begin? There are also reaction buttons down at the bottom of your window. If you go down to the bottom, you have little reactions. You can put a thumbs up or you can clap. And under your participants, you can say yes or no if I asked a question. So there's a couple ways you can interact so we can still communicate. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and get cooking. Is anybody ready? If you're ready, I want to see your thumbs up. Can you give me a thumbs up? You're ready to start cooking? All righty, I see people are ready. Awesome. Well, I am excited. We are going to have a lot of fun here. Okay, so the first one we are going to work on is our cheesecake. Yum, yum. So hopefully you have your recipe printed off and in front of you, and your ingredients nearby so that you can grab them as we go along. Now, most Thanksgivings have pumpkin pie, but this is pumpkin cheesecake, which is a fun variation, and who doesn't like cheesecake, right? So now most cheesecakes, if you've made a traditional cheesecake, they have usually a graham cracker crust, and they've got cream cheese, of course, that's the cheese part. They've got heavy whipping cream, and you're gonna have probably some butter and some eggs and a lot of sugar. Sounds really healthy, doesn't it? That's the typical cheesecake. This cheesecake is much healthier for you because it contains no highly processed foods. It's gluten-free. It has no dairy or eggs. It's got natural sugars, and you don't even have to bake it. So it's fast and easy. That is a win-win in my book. So that's why I'm excited about this cheesecake. So what do you need for this recipe? So you're gonna need a pie plate or a spring form pan to put it in, and I forgot to grab mine, so I'm gonna go grab mine real quick. Okay, so this is a spring form pan, and you can easily take the top off and form everything in there. But if you don't have one of these, you could just use a pie plate, or you could even put it in a square casserole dish if you wanted to. It won't have quite the rounded shape, but you can pretty much use anything you need to, okay? So you'll want to have that, and then you need either a food processor or a blender. Now, my preference is the food processor. I can't live without my food processor, and so that's what I'm gonna use. So I see Danielle's asking, is the spring form better? I like it better because you can unhook it and pull the top off when it's time to serve it, and it's just there on the plate, and you can slice it easier. So I'm not sure why mine is having a hard time coming off. There, good thing I just tested that. Must have gotten stuck in there. So yes, usually you can pop that off fairly easily, and then everything is just nice there and you can just serve it right on the platter. So that's my preference, but like I said, you can use whatever you need to. Okay, so I was saying food processor. So with the food processor, you can, I think, get everything pretty nice and fine in here. And the blenders is a little bit more difficult, but doable. So whatever you have, that's the thing about cooking, is you adapt to what you have and what equipment you have. And then sometimes you put things on your wish list because you really want to get them. So Christmas is coming, so keep that in mind. Okay, so, oh, we'll need a spatula too. So let me grab that. Okay, you'll need a spatula at some point here as well. Now, our main ingredients in this cheesecake is nuts, coconut, and dates. And the special ingredient is these unsalted cashews. So normally cheesecake recipes that I have found that are vegan are usually using raw cashews. This one is using roasted cashews, but I like it for this recipe because it gives it a little bit more of a full, robust taste, which is nice with the pumpkin. So it works pretty good. Now, when you think of cashews, you may think, oh, those are fattening. But here's the thing about cashews is that they're high in monosaturated fats, which is a category of fat that is linked to lower risk of premature death and heart disease and actually lowers bad cholesterol. So this is a good fat you want to have in your diet. Another thing about cashews is they're very high in protein. The same amount of protein is in cashews equivalent to the quantity of cooked meat. And I did not know that before. So if you're not eating meat in your diet and you're thinking, how can I get protein? This is a good way to do that. They're also very high in copper. 67% of your daily need for copper is in cashews. And that is really good for energy production, healthy brain development, and a strong immune system, which we all really need right now. They also have good amounts of magnesium and manganese, which are good for bone health. So for this recipe, we have soaked cashews, but that's going in the filling. For this part, I'm just gonna move this over here a little bit, so hopefully you can see my thing better. We are using the unsoaked ones. So let me grab my measuring cup. We're putting a cup of these cashews in here. The next ingredient we're doing is shredded raw coconut. I'm using an unsweetened kind, and coconut is full of antioxidants, and it contains, and there's a cup of this going in, it contains something called lauric acid. It's a medium chain fatty acid, which is also found in breast milk, and it's useful in fighting viruses and fungi and bacteria. In fact, a couple years ago, we were doing a candida diet for my husband for a little while, and coconut was one of the main things they told us we should have in our diet because it was antifungal and anti-inflammatory. So coconut is awesome. It's also got lots of good fats in it too. It actually has it's actually a saturated fat, but it's not the bad kind of saturated fat. It breaks down very easily in the body. It gives you like immediate energy, so it doesn't turn into weight gain. So even though we've got some things in here that we would think are fattening, it's actually good types of fats. Okay, and then we got a cup of dates. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the dates next. We're going to first blend all this. Let me get my lid here. And you're going to blend it until it's fine and crumbly. Okay, that's not too loud. Maybe I should mute for a second. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you It's about the consistency of like breadcrumbs. Okay, can you see that? Kind of like breadcrumb consistency. That's what you want. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bowl, and I'm going to put that in a bowl. I don't know where my smaller bowl is, so I've got this huge bowl, but it'll work. We're going to put all of our crumbs in there. And then we're going to use the same food processor to do the dates. So I found these dates, I think it was at Meijer. They were already pre-pitted, which is really nice for saving time. If you don't have pre-pitted dates, you'll just need to take a couple minutes to get your pits out. So dates, these ones are going to be pretty soft because they're fresh. But if you have dates that have been sitting around for a while, they might be hard. You might need to put them in some hot water for a little while to kind of soak up again and soften up. But these ones are a good consistency. Now, dates are the sugar that is going to be in this recipe. It's actually in the crust. It's not in the filling. Yeah, it's only in the crust. But this is a natural sugar, and you've got a lot of fiber in there too. So that helps you when you're eating something that might be sugary for it not to affect your blood sugar like refined sugar would. So you're not going to get that blood sugar spike, which is an important thing, let's say, if you're a diabetic. In fact, I read a study about those who have type 2 diabetes, and they were given 3 dates to eat per day, and there was no effect on their HbA1c or their blood sugar levels. Those didn't change, but it did reduce their bad cholesterol. So these are really good. They're high in antioxidants as well, and they've got some anti-inflammatory compounds. So they also help to fight infectious diseases. Okay, so I'm just kind of pressing about a cup of dates, and I'm gonna throw one more in there. And now I'm gonna put all that in my food processor. And now we're gonna grind this up until we form like a paste. Okay, now if you are using a blender, you might have to add a little bit of water to it if it's not blending up very easily. But what you're looking for, it started to ball up as I was blending it. See that right there? So it's now more like a sticky goo. So that's kind of what you want it to be like that. And then we're going to add it to our coconut cashew crumble stuff. I feel like I'm all by myself. You guys are all out there, but it's so quiet. I can't stand it. Maybe I need to have someone say something to me. Okay.
We're working.
Oh, you're all working.
Really
All right.
hard.
That's all right. You're busy working. That's awesome. Okay, so what we're going to be adding to this is 2 tablespoons of almond butter. If you have a different type of nut butter, you could use that. My almond butter is kind of separated here a little bit. Just kind of stirring that up a little bit. These little almond butters, I think I got these at Aldi's, which is pretty inexpensive for almond butter because usually almond butters cost a lot of money. Guess you could use peanut butter or something like that in this recipe too if you wanted. Okay, and one more tablespoon. Okay, now we have a little bit of cinnamon. It says a 1/4 teaspoon, but I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle a little bit. That looks about right. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Don't need very much. And then it calls for a little bit of milk or almond milk or some kind of milk. And I think that's just to kind of soften everything up. So, you know, I'm going to put this back in my food processor because it's going to be so much easier than trying to do this with a spoon. I should have done that from the beginning. Because you got to get all that sticky date mixture mixed up with cashews and all. You could try just doing everything together, the nuts and the cashews and all at the same time. I think I've done that before too. Also, you put the blade in. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like right now. So right now, it's just kind of like a fine crumble, okay? You got all that good stuff, but it's not going to hold together very well to press it into your pan. So that's why you need just a little bit of liquid. So you could use water if you didn't have some kind of a milk, but I'm going to put a little almond milk in there. You don't need much. I think it says about a tablespoon, so just drizzle a little bit in there. Oh yeah, that was perfect. Because now it's much softer and it's gonna hold together a lot better. So now we're able to put it in our pan. Now, let me ask you guys, would you, because you know, I'm learning about cooking too, would you put a little Pam spray on here first to keep it from like sticking? Gwen says yes. Okay.
Maybe coconut oil.
A little coconut oil? Okay. I've got that too. I'm just going to.
I think a little spray or a little coconut oil, Stacy, will keep it also from burning.
This one doesn't bake, so normally that would be true.
Oh, that's right.
This is a no bake, so
I
yeah.
forgot about that.
Crisco. I'm just putting a little bit of the coconut oil here on the bottom. This is a great idea. Thank you for that suggestion. Now I'm going to put all of this crust filling in here. Okay, now this is where you get your fingers dirty. You're just gonna press it to the bottom. Until it's like maybe an 1/8 inch thick all the way around. This is just about the right amount to fill up this entire base of this springform pan. In a pie dish, it might be a little bit thicker, or you might have to go up the sides a little bit. You might have a little bit more, because I think that pan might be a slightly smaller. Okay, so my pie springform pan here has my crust layer in it, and I'm ready to put topping on this. Now, if you wanted this drier or more crispier, or not crispy, but drier, you could bake this for a few minutes, but it's not necessary. And we're not gonna do that today. So now we're going to do the filling, and as was suggested to me, I can use the same dish, so I get 2 dishes dirty. I'm just going to kind of rinse that out real quick. And we're going to do our pumpkin filling in the same food processor. Okay, and my blade is... Okay, now we are ready for our filling. So our filling has the soaked cashews. So hopefully you already soaked your cashews. Mine was soaked for half the afternoon. And now they're very nice and soft. And the reason you soak them is they get creamier, which is this is like serving as your cream, or the, this is your like dairy substitute of sorts. So you want them soft so that they are smooth and it's not gritty. So you're gonna put those in here, and then we're gonna put our coconut oil in. Now there are 2 kinds of coconut oil, and I have a confession, I don't have the best form right here. This is the refined coconut oil I've got, which is nice in that it doesn't have a strong coconut flavor, which in this recipe would not be a problem since we already have coconut in it. But sometimes in other recipes you don't want a strong coconut flavor, and so having the refined is nice for that. But it also has been heated at a higher temperature, so some of the good beneficial properties of the coconut oil have been destroyed. So the unrefined is called virgin coconut oil. How are you guys doing on, how many are on your filling? Or are we still working on our crust? Anybody started on the filling yet?
I'm still on my crust.
You're
I'm
still
like
on the crust.
just at the almond butter.
All right, that's all right.
I'm really
If
done.
you're a little bit behind, 1 more tablespoon.
I got interrupted.
Okay, so let me tell you another reason for this coconut oil, besides putting some good healthy fat in here. This cheesecake is no bake, which means that it sets up in the fridge. And coconut oil has this property that at colder temperatures it solidifies, and at warmer temperatures it's more soft, or it can even become a liquid. So mine is pretty soft, but if you put coconut oil in a fridge or freezer, it gets really firm. So this filling will, in the beginning, look a little bit too loose, but after it sits in the cold for several hours, it will get nice and firm. And that's why you can have this as a no-bake cheesecake. So the coconut oil is pretty important. If you leave this out, your filling is not gonna set up. Now the next thing we need is coconut cream. So this is coconut cream. It's different from coconut milk, only in the regards that there's less liquid in this. So if you had coconut milk, you could still use the top part of the can. You'll just have more liquid at the bottom. Coconut cream is going to have a whole lot more of the thick white stuff, and that's the only part we're using. So that's why we're doing the coconut cream. So this is going to
Stacy, how many tablespoons of coconut oil did you put in
6.
your filling?
6 tablespoons.
6, thank you.
Yeah. So this coconut cream is kind of like your whipping cream substitute. So you can see how nice and thick that white gooey yumminess is. That is what you want. And we need about, let's see, 1/4 cup. That's not actually a whole lot. Now you will not use, I'm actually thinking that a regular can of coconut milk would have at least 1/4 cup of the cream on top. Most cans. So if you can't find coconut cream, no worries. Just get some coconut milk and just use the white stuff up at the top. So I'm taking all this white stuff and I'm putting it here in my measuring cup. And you're gonna have some probably left over. You can use this as a topping, like whipped topping. Like it kind of even looks a little bit like whipped topping. If you just add some, maybe some organic sugar to that, or maybe, and then you could use this as a whipped topping on top of your cake or your cheesecake afterwards. Otherwise, you can save this and put it in a soup. I just found a recipe for, in fact, maybe I'll send this to y'all guys as a bonus. It was a soup that was a wild rice soup with sweet potatoes and carrots, and it uses coconut milk as the cream for the, oh yes, Terry's giving me a thumbs up. She's like, yes, I want that recipe. So I'll make sure you guys get that. So that's, you could use the rest of this coconut milk and your wild rice blend in that soup recipe. Okay, so I've got my coconut cream in, and now we got to put the pumpkin in. So I've got here organic pumpkin from Kroger. I really like their Simple Truth brand. Does anybody else get the Simple Truth brand at Kroger? Their organic brand. Yeah, Gwen likes that one. And Rosie, Angie's saying, yeah, she likes that one too. So, yeah, this is from there. Now, someone contacted me this week and said, what if I've got fresh pumpkin? Can I use that? Sure, absolutely. You'll have to cook it, bake it, and then puree it and all of that. But why not? If you're growing pumpkins in your garden or you found some at the store, definitely you can use that. But we're gonna make this a little bit easier. Now, what are some ideas of what you could do with some of this leftover pumpkin? You're not gonna use this entire can. Anyone have an idea what you might use the rest of this pumpkin for?
It's great in baking. You can use it to make brownies and all kind of stuff because it makes it real moist.
There you go. It's almost like an oil replacer.
Yeah.
How many would love to have like a pumpkin soy latte kind of thing? Like a hot drink.
Ooh.
A little pumpkin spice.
We
This recipe for a vegan pumpkin bread. Kind of like you
would just
bread. So I think that's what I'm going to do with the rest of mine.
we would just make the pumpkin topping, the stuff and then my mom would just pour them into custard dishes
Uh-huh.
without the crust and stuff, and then we just had the pumpkin custard
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
So Amelia says
That
she's
was
going
our
to make some pumpkin bread. I like that idea. Oh, someone says they love their dog loves pumpkin. That's funny. So one of the things about pumpkin, I'll tell you, is that it's very high in vitamin A, as you would suspect, because of this orangish color. You think carrots, you think vitamin A, but what you may not know is all the good things vitamin A is good for. And a single cup of pumpkin contains 200% of your daily intake for vitamin A. And it's great for optical health, of course, as we know, but it's also good for your skin health, and there are cancer-fighting properties in vitamin A. Now, I'm having difficulty getting the seal off of this maple syrup, so I'm just gonna have to cut it with a knife. And there's a lot of fiber in pumpkin. There's 7 grams of fiber in a cup of pumpkin. That's more fiber than you would get if you ate 2 slices of whole grain bread. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to put some maple syrup in here, and I've got 6 tablespoons to go in here. This is my natural sweetener for this recipe. I love maple syrup. Does anybody else like maple syrup?
Yep, it's good in lots of things.
I like it on pancakes, and it's just an awesome natural sweetener.
Stacy, could you use honey instead of maple syrup?
I think so. Yeah, I think you could. Or agave nectar would probably work just as fine. It's another natural sweetener. Okay, now we're gonna put in some vanilla. Teaspoon of vanilla. And then I've got some, I'm gonna put a little lemon juice in here now. Half teaspoon of lemon juice. Now I've got some different yummy stuff like the cinnamon. So this recipe calls for cinnamon and pumpkin pie spice. Now you may say, I don't have pumpkin pie spice. What do I do? So if you're not sure what pumpkin spice is, or what's in pumpkin pie spice, it's basically all the things that would normally be put in a pumpkin pie. So you've got a little nutmeg, and you've got, let's see, you can actually find recipes online for making your own pumpkin pie spice. It's like a tablespoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ground ginger, half teaspoon of ground cloves, half teaspoon of allspice, and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So it's mostly cinnamon with a few other things. But pumpkin pie spice just makes it easy because it puts it all mixed up. But you can make your own if you have all those other ingredients. A teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, a half teaspoon of plain cinnamon, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, that's everything that goes in my filling. And now all I have to do is grind this whole thing up really good. And that took a little longer than it would have if I had used a blender. But I wanted to make sure it was smooth. It's still like slightly gritty. So I'm gonna blend it a little bit more. Now you can, if you want tasters, you can adjust the sweetener. If you like, oh, I wish it was a little sweeter, you can add a little bit more maple syrup to it. But I think mine is pretty good. Actually, I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Okay, and I'm gonna blend this a little bit longer. If I were to do this again, I think I would have done this in the blender because I think I could have gotten it just slightly smoother. But we're gonna make it work. Okay, my filling is done. How are you guys doing on your filling?
This is delicious.
Is it good?
Oh my God. It's so good.
That's what I want to hear.
I am going to bake my crust though, because it's a little chunky.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
So how long would you?
I would probably do it for maybe about 300 for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's and that would dry it out a little bit if you feel like it's a little too soft. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is put our filling in our pan, unless you're gonna bake yours first. Put all that yummy goodness in there. And this is really fast. Like, think about if you were to bake a pumpkin pie, you'd have to bake it for like 50 minutes. And then you're always wondering if you baked it long enough and if it's going to set up and all of that. This one, you don't have to worry about all that because it's no bake. You just put all this filling in here and then smooth it out and put it in the fridge until it sets up. And it'll take several hours for it to set up. So this is better to do like the day before you're gonna serve it. And you can adjust things, you know, like you're like, you know, I'd like to put a little bit more pumpkin in it. I just want it a little bit oranger. You can do that. You want to add a little bit more sweetener. You can, the whole thing about cooking is take a basic recipe and then adjust it to your preference. That's how I do it. Okay, so here's my completed pumpkin cheesecake. You guys all see that? And now I'm gonna pop this in my fridge, and then I'm gonna show you what you would put on this when it's set up. So I gave you some suggestions or options. Someone says, love the slippers. Well, when you're standing in a hard kitchen floor, it sure can make it more comfy. So I gave you some options for whip topping. One I mentioned was just the white cream from the top of your coconut milk. And I have done that several times before. Just add some sweetener to that. You don't want anything liquidy in it because it will thin it out. So it would have to be like a dry sugar, like an organic sugar. But another option is to do a non-dairy whip topping. So my favorite is the Cocoa Whip, but some stores only carry it around the holidays, which means they should be starting to carry it soon, but I didn't see any when I went shopping like a week ago. But you can always find here at Kroger the non-dairy True Whip. And one thing I like about this is that it doesn't have any trans fats. It's non-GMO. There's no high fructose corn syrup or any of that stuff that you might find in other whip toppings. There's no hydrogenated oils or preservatives or anything like that. So for whip topping, it's pretty healthy. So this, oh, Kim found Cocoa Whip. I see. So where'd you find that, Kim?
Kroger's.
Kroger has it now. Okay. So they usually only carry it at the holidays. So they
only
must
had,
have
like,
just started.
They only had 3 or 4. I got it yesterday.
You got it yesterday. Okay, very cool. So what I usually will do is I will stock up on it in my freezer. Then I'll have it throughout the year. Because they only usually, maybe Better Health would have it around the year, but not Kroger. So yeah, you put some of this whipped topping on your cheesecake and maybe a little cinnamon. And oh, doesn't that sound yummy?
Okay. Got green my nut.
Okay, so we are done with that recipe. I'm going to just move some stuff here and get ready to start doing the filling for the acorn squash. And that is going to take a lot less time than this recipe because we've done a lot of the pre-work already for it.
Stacy, Danielle said that the Cocoa Whip was also at Myers.
Oh, they do have it at Meyer. Okay, awesome.
Oh, great, Mike.
Keep that in mind. I've seen whip toppings too that are more in like an aerosol can, but I always have trouble with those because at some point nothing's coming out anymore except air. Okay, so we're going to now transition to our stuffed acorn squash. Now, how many of you have never had acorn squash? Is there anyone here that's like new to acorn squash?
That was inside of this one, the black one, right on top. The handle is icky at me.
Okay, so I guess you all had acorn squash. It has kind of a nutty taste. It's not quite as sweet as like a butternut squash would be. Although this stuffing could be put in other squashes. The first time I made it a couple months ago, I put it in a buttercup squash, which is like the greener, flatter, kind of turban-shaped squash. That was really good. You could do it in a butternut squash. So, or you could do it inside of a pumpkin. You know, there you could put the stuffing any kind of squash you want. So those are some of the alternative suggestions it gives you in the recipe. But we're putting this in an acorn squash. And as I showed you in the little prep video, this makes a lot of acorn squash if you do 2 whole squashes. So I only did 1 squash today. Here is my squash. So you can cut your squash 2 different ways. I cut mine crosswise, so I had this fluted edge, but you can cut it lengthwise as well. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just your own creativity or presentation, how you want it to look. And then I just drizzled a little bit of olive oil, a little salt on it, and put it on my baking sheet upside down and baked it, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. Truthfully, I think I baked it just slightly too long because it's a little softer than I like, but that's how cooking goes. Sometimes it comes out perfect and other times not as perfect, but you still eat it either way because you worked so hard to do it, right? Uh, Okay, so we're gonna be making the film. So we have some veggies we're gonna use here, and I gotta grab my celery. So this recipe calls for 2 stalks of celery and 1 medium onion. And I'm comfortable with you guys unmuting now if you want to, because we're not blending or using any noisy stuff. So if you want to unmute and talk along, I don't mind hearing you cook away. So to make my cutting up of my veggies easier, I'm going to use a chopper. So I have this chopper right here I bought at Bed Bath & Beyond. I used to have a Vidalia onion chopper and I loved it, but it broke. And when I went to buy one this spring, they said, oh, that comes from China. Nothing's shipping from China right now. Go COVID, you know? So I bought this one instead, and I quite like it. So it's got a couple different blades in it, and then it has this tray that slides in and out. And it's easy to clean too. It's got these things that pull off, so you get all the little particles out from the things. So this is nice if you are looking for a chopper and you don't want to spend all the time cutting. So let me grab a knife. So my friend Sue let me borrow her induction hot plate. So I tested it today, Sue. It works great. And I guess the cool thing about an induction hot plate is it doesn't get hot. Like, you can't burn yourself on it.
I never used it, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, I learned that today from a friend. So I'm gonna chop up my veggies, the celery and the onion, and then before I saute them, I'm going to toast the nuts. Now I have a little confession to make. The recipe calls for pecans, and I thought I had pecans in the house, but you know how it is. You go to cook and then you realize you're missing an ingredient in your recipe. So what do? Do you like drop everything like, oh, I gotta go to the store? No, you substitute with something else. That's just life, right? So I thought, okay, I'm gonna give everybody a good lesson on what you have to do. So I am gonna use walnuts instead of pecans. But for the rest of you who got your ingredients, you can use the pecans. So this recipe calls for a medium onion. I had a large onion, so I'm only going to use a part of it. I'm going to use my little chopper here. chopper, that's all right. You can chop them the old-fashioned way. Now, what is celery good for? Can anyone tell me what celery is good? Why it's good to eat celery?
It's good for your bones.
There you go.
Heard it was good for your nerves.
Now that one I haven't heard. I know it has a lot of calcium in it, which is why it's good for your bones.
Yeah,
I heard
it's
one
good for
said-
fresh breath.
It's good for fresh breath? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's got a lot of water content, so it's very hydrating. That's why
You spend more calories chewing it. You spend more calories chewing it than you take in.
that's great. I need those kind of foods in my diet, right?
I was thinking that because of all the strings that get caught between your teeth, it's good for your dental because it makes you floss all the time.
There you go. I like that one. I'll have to remember that one. I'm not usually a celery fan. I can use it if it's like cooked up and sauteed or something, but I don't really like it raw.
Oh, I love celery. There's protein in it. I can live with celery. Oh, I think I just spilled coconut cream all over my floor.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to toast my nuts. So like I said, the recipe calls for pecans. I don't have pecans. I'm going to use walnuts. And let's see, it says about a half cup. And I'm just toasting them in a dry skillet. You can do it in the oven too, but I find this is easier and I'm less likely to burn it, which I've done too many times.
Oh, sorry. I need to mute me.
Chopping the walnuts, I'm just breaking them apart because they're softer. Walnuts are actually really good in omega. Is it omega-3s or omega-6, Kim? The walnuts have. One of those
Omega-6.
Omega-6?
Omega-3.
Oh,
Is
three,
that-
I'm sorry. Yeah. the one, yeah. Thank you, Mary. Or
I know it's good for your brain. Actually, a lot of the nuts are good for your brain. And like I said, they're healthy fats and they contain protein. So it's a good form of protein if you're not eating meat. So with these walnuts, or your pecans, you're just toasting them until they start to be a little bit fragrant. But you can easily burn them. So once you start to like smell them, just take them out. And I'm doing them first so that my skillet is dry, because once all the veggies go in there, it's just going to be moist. Okay, I think that's enough walnuts. All right, right, how's everybody's food coming along? Looks like people are still busy cooking. Hopefully everyone's having a good time. Oh, my cousin Melissa is now on. Hi, Melissa. No, she can hear me.
Hello, hello, sweet cousin. Everything's looking good.
Thank you so much. Melissa lives in Beaumont, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where it's nice and hot right down off of the Atlantic Ocean. She has survived multiple hurricanes this year.
Lord have mercy. I think we're coming to like number 4 or 5 already.
4 or
But
5.
I like
I
my
think like every
hurricanes. I
single
get to
one
work
of
from
them has
home.
been going over you, sweetheart.
Thank goodness for that.
We prayed for you a lot. Give love to those little girls of yours.
Oh, absolutely, I will.
Okay, I'm starting to smell my walnuts. So they are almost done. They're smelling nice and fragrant. I'd say they're done. Okay, I'm just putting those in a little bowl, setting those aside. And now I'm going to put my veggies in my skillet. And you can do a little bit of oil if you want, a little olive oil to saute them in. Or if you're trying to cut the amount of oil in your diet, you can just do a little bit of a water saute. So that's what I'm gonna do. Woo, the steam is coming off. Okay, so I've got my onions and my celery in there, and that's gonna start cooking down. And then I'm gonna be adding some garlic to this. So there's 2 ways you can do garlic. If you want a fast, easy way, you can buy a jar of that already cut up garlic. But if you want it even better, you can take the time to peel your own garlic, which I am gonna do tonight. Yes, yeah, you got a question. Oh, she's got her. Is that a Pampered Chef one?
Yes,
That's
it
what
is.
I have one here too. I love my Pampered Chef.
Love it.
Gotta find it. I don't know where to put it. Oh, there it is.
Here, want to borrow mine?
Oh yeah, another Pampered Chef one. They made the best garlic press. No joke.
Yeah.
So we're putting in here 3 cloves of garlic. And my knife is. Now, if you want to know my favorite way of getting the peels off of garlic, let me make sure my screen is such that you can see. The easiest way for me to get my peelings off of the garlic is to smash them. So you can use anything that's hard and just press on them until they kind of split, and then the peelings will come off very easily. You don't get your fingers quite as covered in garlic juice. So that's the way I do it. My onions and celery are doing really good over here. So now I'm gonna get this garlic in there, using my little press. So this recipe is like a combination of savory and sweet. The veggies here will make it a little bit more savory, but we're also going to be adding some dried fruit, and you have the nuts. And I actually tested this recipe and a more savory version. It had mushrooms and sage and other things on my family to see which they preferred. And hands down, they said the fruit nut one. So that is the one you are getting because that was everybody's favorite. And I hope you like it just as much as we did. Okay. So my garlic, yes.
Oh, I actually have a garlic peeler.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My mom had one of those. Those work pretty good too.
Yeah, and actually, even if you don't have one, just a newspaper or a magazine page or something, you just put it in a tube type and you just roll it in your hands, and it releases it.
And the peels will
So
come
that
off.
works. Yep, works really fast. In fact, at the doctor's yesterday, a lady put a whole clove and she put it in the microwave, and I don't remember how long, but they popped right out.
Yeah.
So cool. Like I'd never seen that one.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is while my veggies are sauteing, and they're doing really good. In fact, I think I'm going to actually turn the heat down a little bit. I don't really want them to be too soft. I still kind of like that vibrant color a little bit. I'm going to take this off the heat for a second. No, I'm good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, let's turn that off for the moment, is I'm going to chop up my apricots. So I have some dried apricots here, and this is going to go in our filling. And I'm just using the same chopper I used before, or you can chop them by hand. And I is about a fourth cup. And you can vary how much of this dried fruit you want to put in here. But it's so yummy. Okay, now I've got my apricots chopped. I don't have to chop anything else up because everything else is already small. So the other fruit was some dried cranberries, and I found these reduced sugar ones, which most dried cranberries, they put a lot of sugar on it to make it tolerable because they're really sour. But these are reduced sugar. I'm putting a quarter cup of that. Half cup here, so I'm just going to estimate about a half of that. And then I've got some raisins. So you can choose golden raisins or dark raisins. I'm using the golden raisins. I like it a little bit better. But whatever raisins you have, you can use. You know what, guys? We are not that far from having this stuffing ready. We're just going to be putting these fruits in here and the nuts that we roasted and our seasonings. And we are going to be mixing this up. Okay, so I'm going to add now to my sauteed mixture my rice that I cooked earlier. So we made this wild rice blend. And this is a really tasty rice blend. There are some actually rices in here I had to look up because I wasn't even that familiar with what they were. Like it mentioned Wahani rice. I guess it's a form of basmati rice, but it has, it's the reddish brown rice that's in there. And they say that it's very aromatic and it smells or tastes like hot buttered peanuts or popcorn. And then it has japonica rice in it, which is got a lot of antioxidants in it. So there's a lot of different types of rices in here. Nice thing is it's all non-GMO, it's organic, and this gives it a nutty flavor. Now you could just use a regular brown rice if you wanted, but for a holiday meal, having something that's a little bit more special with a really great nutty flavor, I would recommend the wild rice blend. So we cooked that up earlier. We used 1 cup of rice to 1 3/4 cup of vegetable stock, and we simmered that for 40 some minutes until it was nice and cooked. And then I just left that on the side to cool. So now I'm going to add that to my sauteed veggies, and I'm just going to start assembling everything together. The rice is done. You know, your rice could even be cooled and be from the day before. You are saving time. I'm putting my nuts now in here. And all my dried fruit, my raisins and cranberries and apricots. That's now all going in here. And now all I need to do is add my seasonings. So I am using some dried sage from my garden. My teaspoon. Okay, so it calls for a teaspoon of dried sage. And then it calls for a teaspoon of dried thyme. I had dried thyme out there, but I had some fresh thyme out in the garden still. So I'm just going to take the leaves off a few sprigs. This is a lemon thyme. So you can use fresh herbs if you have them rather than dried herbs. But herbs are a great way to season your food without having to use so much salt. And it adds a lot of flavor. And with fresh herbs, you're going to use more than you would if you were using dried. I'm just going to put a little bit more of this thyme in there. And then let's see, what other ones did I have? That's it, and then salt to taste. So I think I'm going to mix it and then taste it and see if it needs any salt added. Oh, you guys got to see this. Can you see how that looks like? You got all your veggies, and then you got the color from like the cranberries and the walnuts and the apricots. Doesn't that just look so good? Someone tell me that looks good.
Tastes yummy too.
Okay, someone's already tested it. I'm about to do that myself. It's hearty, it's fruity, it's like a perfect fall dish. So when you
when does the vegetable broth go in?
The vegetable broth is used to cook the rice. So that you cook the rice in the vegetable broth so that it adds flavor to the rice. Oh wow, that's really good. I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt. You know, this stuffing is so good, you could just serve it on its own. Which you probably will because you'll have more here than you're gonna have room to put inside your squashes. So just serve some on the side. Or use this as a side dish at another event. There it is. My stuffing is done. So what I'm going to do now is put it in my squashes. Clear out some space here.
Stacy,
Yeah.
you know how well it will freeze? I mean, I would think it would freeze well.
Okay, say that again.
Do you know how well it will freeze?
The rice?
I would think
it would freeze just fine.
I would think it would freeze well.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got my squash. I've just put here in a little casserole dish so that I can store this and then reheat it tomorrow. And now I'm just going to take some of this filling here and fill these little cavities up. So the squash has kind of a fruity or a little bit of a sweetness to it itself, which I think is a really good compliment. Oh, this is looking so pretty. You can just pack it in those cavities as much as you can get in there, and if it spills over, that's all right. And if you want, you can put a couple more little sprigs of your herbs on top. Alrighty, here is my squash. How's that look? Does yours look kind of like that, or you're in the process of getting it to look like that? Awesome. So this right here is gonna feed, oh, there's 3 in my household right now. Oh, Kathy is showing me hers. Beautiful, Kathy. I love it. Anybody else have something to show me? Where are you at? Okay, Erin, what do you have over there to show me? You're smiling. Oh, Terry's got hers up. Okay, nice. Danielle. Ooh, Janet. Ooh, look at all these beautiful stuffed squashes. Yum, yum. I love it. You got something very healthy to serve your family that's full of vitamins and antioxidants, and you can eat it with a clear conscience. You can eat that whole squash and filling and not feel guilty one bit about it. So this is a great thing to serve for any holiday meal or one of the holidays coming up, or just a family dinner. And yeah, play with it and experiment with it. There are some substitutions you can do. You could do caramelized onions in it and mushrooms and do more of a savory version, but I think you will really love that. Question someone is asking, how do you recommend reheating? I'm probably going to put some foil over the top and then bake it in the oven for a little bit, just so it doesn't get too crispy on top, and then take maybe the foil off at the very end. That's how I'm going to reheat mine. Okay, any other questions? We're kind of coming here to the end. I know some of you are still in the process of finishing up your dishes, but I wanted just to share a thing or two with you here at the end. I hope you've had a really good time tonight. I hope that, yeah, Danielle's giving me a little clap there. Good. I hope that you would come again and invite a friend to come and join. It says my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully you can hear me all right. Can someone hear me? Can you have a thumbs up here? Okay, good. Gwen says that you can hear me just fine. So yeah, I hope you will invite a friend to the next one. Please like our Facebook page so that you will know when we post our next event. And we will also email you, letting you know about that. Our next one, of course, is in December. It's not going to be cooking. It's going to be more of a health presentation. But we're going to share some little goodies along with that and probably include a recipe for you. So please register and join us for that one as well. And let's see what else I want to say to you. Most importantly, this is probably the most important thing I want to say.
Yes.
Yes, someone had a question or comment. Okay, I thought I heard someone saying something.
Fun. And
So what I wanted to say here as we kind of close is that this isn't just about cooking. Like you could get on YouTube and you could watch cooking videos all day long, every day. But what we want to do is build community. We want to build friendship. We want to have a place where you can find like-minded people who are also interested in health and healthful eating, and build connections in a time when it's kind of hard to do that, you know? It's hard to get together and hang out. And I wish we could all like go out to dinner or something together, but we did tonight. We kind of all, we were all together and making dinner. So that was a lot of fun, and that's what we want to do. But we're here for you. You know, if you have a health question that comes up anytime, or you have want some support or encouragement in your health journey, send us a text, send us an email, give us a phone call. You know, we're here for you. And we want to build friendships and get to know you. So as best as we can do that with all the social distancing stuff. And hopefully maybe in time we'll be able to be together in an actual in person. But that's what we want to be. We want to be your friend. So I want to just thank you for having spent your evening with me. I know that many of you don't know, who never met me before, or our team, but you spent an evening with me, and that was really special, and I hope you had a great time. And yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope that we'll see you again at our next event. Any questions or last comments anyone wants to make before we kind of sign off?
I think it was a lot of fun and very educational, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to make it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very
Thank you.
good. You're welcome. Let me have a little prayer for each of you guys as I let you go tonight. Dear God, I want to thank you so much for my new friends and some friends I've had for a while, and even my cousin who was able to join me tonight. And I ask, Lord, that you would put a special blessing on each one of these families, and anyone who was able to join us for a part of this evening. Lord, protect them, keep their families healthy, give blessings in their lives, Lord, and guide them in their health journey so that they can experience that abundant life you came to give us. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, good night. Hope you all have a blessed rest of your evening, what's left of it, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good-
Bye, everybody.
Good night.